Okay, hi students. We are going to be starting in the next 9 minutes. So just hold on. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes. Just wait 1 second. Okay, hi students. We are going to be starting in the next. Hi, welcome all FST students. Thank you and welcome to Balancing Acts. Now, this is a writing workshop seminar, and we're also going to be touching on things like resume building, on things like study tips and time management. You guys are going to get to find out what kind of learner you are, and a one bag of niceness. So, my name is Maya Buchanan Smith, and as it says right there, I am your VP PSI. And this event was put on in collaboration with the VPPSI committee and the Secretariat committee. My co-host, Miss Gabrielle Gale, is going to be here in just a second, so wait until you can see her. In the meantime, I'm going to introduce you guys to our first speaker. Her name is Miss Tiffany Dunkley. She's a graduate of the University of the West Indies from the Faculty of Social Sciences, and she'll be speaking to you guys on how to build your resume, how to and how to manage your time correctly. So please welcome Miss Tiffany Dunkley. Tiffany, are you here?
Yes, I am here.
Hi. How are you
Hi.
doing today?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
All right. I'm gonna leave you to it so you can speak to the students and so we can learn something today.
All right, not a problem. Okay, good afternoon, folks. So today I will be doing a presentation on time management in light of COVID-19 as well as resume building. So I'll begin. Time management. Alright, I begin with a quote. There is one kind of robbery whom the law does not strike at, and who steals what is most precious to man, which is time. And that quote is from Napoleon the First. What is time management? I have two definitions here for you. The first, the ability to use one's time effectively or productively, and this is by the Oxford Dictionary. And the second is managing time effectively so that the right time is allotted to the right activity. And this is from the Management Study Guide. The importance of time management. All right. So time management inspires discipline, it alleviates stress, it is self-care, and it allows you to capitalize on more opportunities in life. How to effectively manage your time? You have to first know yourself, stay out of bed, get dressed and show up, plan ahead, avoid distraction, and find a balance. Now, what I mean by know yourself. Everyone is different, and as such, I don't expect for everybody to have the same approach as it relates to time management. So, what I will suggest is that you schedule your time, whether by writing it down using your phone, in a planner, in a journal, on your computer, however you see best. And you will schedule things like your meals, your school activities. If you go to school and go to work, you will also schedule that, as well as scheduling time for your friends, because that is also very important. It is important to maintain a healthy balance between your personal life, your friends, work, and school. Stay out of bed. Now, I know that most of us are at home most of the times in light of COVID-19, and what that means is that we're almost always tempted to be in the bed. So we're eating in the bed, we're working from the bed. We sometimes, if you're like me, you want to lay down. I always want to lie down because I'm at home, and even though I have other things to do, the bed is tempting. So what I would recommend is that you have a designated workspace. Even if your space is not big or you're not privileged enough to have another room where you can go to set up a desk or an office, even if you have to grab a plastic chair and sit down and use the bed as a table, stay out of bed and have your designated workspace. Get dressed and show up. That doesn't mean that you're going to put on your Sunday best or you put on the clothes that you generally wear to school, but it's important that you get out of bed on time, you take a shower, and you put on some clothes and be ready for the day. It doesn't make sense for you to have a 9 o'clock class and 8:50 you're just rolling out of the bed to reach beside you, take up the laptop to turn it on, because you won't be alert and you won't be able to focus and pay attention in class. It may work for some people, but for most, I'm sure it won't work for them. So get dressed and show up. Also, it is important to plan ahead. So as I mentioned earlier, Write down your plans, whether it is in your phone, on your calendar, in your journal. Write it down, because when you plan ahead, that means you know exactly what you have to accomplish, how long you have to accomplish them, and this will allow you to manage your time better. And in the event that anything arises that you did not expect, then you always know exactly what you have to do and how much wiggle room you have. Avoid distractions, the cell phones, and social media. If you are anything like me, I love Twitter. I love Twitter. I spend a lot of time on Twitter. And since COVID-19, I've noticed that my screen time has gone up. Now, what I would encourage you guys to do is to take advantage of the different apps. Some are built in on the phone, and some you have to download to see how best you can avoid distractions, especially on the cell phone. So you can set timers on the phone to kick you out of the apps. So you can set timers to kick you out of YouTube, timers to kick you out of WhatsApp, timers to kick you off of Twitter. So you can go ahead and focus on your schoolwork or the other tasks that you have on hand. And this also takes a level of discipline, because you can go in and manipulate these apps. However, you have to be disciplined within yourself enough to know that my schoolwork is a priority, or my job is a priority, or whatever I have to do at this particular time is a priority, and I simply do not have the time for the phone right now. I can always do that later on. And the final thing on the list is to find a balance. It makes no sense you're completely focused on school or you're not focused on school any at all. And as I mentioned earlier, you have to also find time for your friends, because you always need time to decompress and to unwind, especially now, given COVID time and most of you are at home, you can't see your friends physically, whether you decide to meet up via Zoom or you have Netflix where you can do the screen share thing and have a Netflix party. So whatever it is that you find to do in this time to maintain a balance with those who work, for those who go to school, and with your social life, it is very, very, very important to maintain a balance, especially for the sake of your sanity. Right? There are tools that you can use for time management. I have a couple of them listed. My favorite one is Trello, and that is Trello. Now, what you can do in that is to basically create to-do lists or itemize things that you have to do on a daily basis or weekly or monthly, however you see fit. I would also encourage you to use a calendar, whether that be the calendar on your phone, which oftentimes you can collaborate with Google Calendar as well, which is really good. I would suggest as well Toggle, which is Toggl, another time management app that you can download on your smartphones. You can also take advantage of Evernote if you have a Samsung. Most times this comes on it. And another app that you can download is MindNote. That's MindNode, right? It is also important to take breaks, whether mental breaks or physical breaks. So, as I mentioned earlier, you have a designated workspace. It is important sometimes to get up and walk away from that workspace. Most of you are at home, you're not getting in much physical activities. It is not good to be sitting in one place for a long period of time. So, if it is in between classes, you go and grab a snack in the kitchen, you walk, you get some fresh air outside, and you come back and continue your work. It is also important to take power naps. During my university time, power naps were a lifesaver, because one of the first things I learned when I started UA was that sleep is a concept. And to this day, sleep is indeed a concept. So power naps, nothing more than 15 minutes. So you set a timer on your phone to wake you up after 15 minutes. And after that, you should be energized and ready to continue the task at hand. Going to be moving into resume building. I know that a lot of persons are generally daunted by resume building, but I can assure you that it is nothing hard. It is a skill that I have developed over the years by simply researching, playing around with different things on social media, asking questions, reaching out to people who I know are professional in the area, and getting different pointers and tips. As you go along, it will definitely get easier. All right, so some key tips. Have a master resume. What I mean by this, you're going to have a document where you put everything down. So from your permanent address, all of your cell phone numbers, everything that you've ever achieved in life academically from GSAT come right down. You're also going to itemize your experiences, even if you do not think it is qualified for your resume. Write it down. Write down what you would have done at various jobs. Write down things that you would have volunteered for. Even if you're volunteering on a committee here at UA and you decide, oh, well, I never really do much, so I'm not sure if I should put this on my resume. Write it in your master resume. Detail everything. Ensure that you have the dates readily available and on point. Also, try to write down all of your skills, whether soft skills or hands on skills. Even if you don't think they're important or if you don't think you're very great at it, write them on the master resume. The other thing is to document key milestones and accomplishments, which goes back to the first thing I said, write them down. You achieve something, you write it down. COVID is going on right now, and I know a lot of us are doing online certificates to improve ourselves in our spare time. Write it down. Make a note of it. If you're using Google to elevate yourself, write it down. If you're using LinkedIn Learning, write it down. If you're using lynda.com, write it down. Another thing is to seek help. Do not be afraid to reach out and to ask persons for their opinions or for guidance when it is that you're creating your resume. If it means that you have to pay somebody to actually do your resume, then you go ahead and do that if you're not comfortable and confident enough to do it on your own. The other thing is to tailor your resume to your job description. So the master resume that I spoke about first is not the one that you will be using for all the jobs. So what you will do is from the master resume, you will pull out various items. For example, you're applying for a position as a teacher, right? And on the master resume, you would have had experiences working at the bank. You would have done a summer job at Ministry of Justice doing filing, and you would have volunteered at a children's home, right? Now you're saying, I'm applying for a teacher, but I've worked at the bank. How can that be applicable? You then go to your master resume, look at the job description for the teacher, find the things, find the key areas that match and detail them in the resume. Trust me, there's always something at a job that you would have done in the past or for something that you would have volunteered for in the past or an experience that you would have had in the past that links to a job description or for a job that you will be applying for. Oftentimes, job descriptions are very flexible, and even if you don't meet all the key points, there are some things that you will hit. Trust me. Resume outlines. All right, so here I have a basic resume outline. The resume doesn't have to be more than one page, especially when you're just starting out. It is recommended that you try to curtail everything to one page. When I get resumes here, because sometimes persons send resumes to my office, and when I look at them, I'm like, why does a university student need to have a 3-page resume? You know what they're doing? They're sending me their master resume. Persons don't want to see that. Tailor your resume to everything that you're applying for. Right? So the first thing at the top, of course, your name, the obvious. It doesn't have to follow this exact pattern that I have, but these are key things that should be included in your resume. So you have your name, your address, your email, and your telephone number. What I've noticed is that persons have started to leave their addresses off of their resume. I am not in support of it. However, if you're not comfortable with disclosing where you live, then you can go ahead and omit that. The other thing is objective. What does an objective generally look like? Sometimes it is called an executive summary, an executive objective. It is called other names on different things, dependent on what you want to use or dependent on the statement that you're going to be using. It is generally a 2-sentence on who you are and what you plan to achieve professionally. So an example of an objective would be a dynamic individual with 5+ years of experience in communication who hopes to assist company to achieve their growth. That's basically an objective, right? Then the other category that you will have is your education. Now, how you list your education is from first to last. So from most recent to the last thing. And what I would suggest is that once you have your degree, it is no longer important for you to be listing your CAPE and CXE subjects because that is just taking up space on your resume. And remember that we have one page to work with. Some employers like it, some don't mind. But for me personally, if I have a degree, it is quite obvious that I would be qualified to get one, which is CXE and CAPE. If you so choose, then you can go ahead and list them, but be very brief about it. The other thing is experience. And this is generally a job experience. So how you list these the same as you list your education from the last thing you would have done downwards, right? So, and you don't have to make up things because if you don't have any experience and you just don't have any, that means that you have to put in other things in terms of volunteers and your skills on the resume, right? When I just started out, I had no experience. My first job was my actual first job. I had no summer jobs prior or anything like that. However, what I utilized was my voluntary things and the other skills that I would have had because I had no experience, and that's quite fine. And the last and final thing that is on here, it says honors and activities. And you can have other categories as well, such as voluntary experiences, other activities, special skills, whether those be soft skills or hard skills, and achievements. All right. So some soft skills that you can list are problem solving, critical thinking, flexible, adaptable, communication, teamwork, organization, creativity, emotional intelligence, which is something that I find is very, very, very important, especially going out in the work world. It is important to be adaptive and it is important that one has emotional intelligence. Paying attention to details and responsible. Some of the hard skills are like computer skills. That means if you're competent in Microsoft Word or Excel or projects, if you can use Google Suite, if you can do graphic design, data analysis, negotiation, mathematics, project management, marketing, administrative skills, writing, or foreign language. Here are the things that I listed. Some of these things you have in the back of your mind as things you can do, but you're not thinking that they're qualified for your resume. Write them down. Oftentimes, when we set out to compile our resume, I find that we undersell ourselves. And that is why we have to ask for help sometimes. So you find somebody to sit and go through the things with you in bulk, and they're saying, but you know, you're a good writer. And you wouldn't have thought about that because writing is second nature, so you don't really consider it as a skill. So asking for help persons will help you to pull out things that you don't necessarily readily identify about yourself. Now, this is an example of a resume that I would have randomly pulled offline. It is now 2020 and everybody has a fancy resume. Resumes are not like back in the day where it's just one dimensional, black and white, you list things and you move on. Hiring managers are actually looking for dynamic, a little personality, a little flavor. Persons go as far as to add their pictures on their resume. So when you pick it up, you can really readily identify who it is that you're about to employ. Some of the tools that you can use to assist you when designing your resume is Pinterest. Pinterest is one of my most favorite websites in life for anything. You can go on, you can type in resumes, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of samples, some of them free, some you have to pay for, that are readily available on Pinterest. Now, what I generally do is to go on Pinterest, find a design that I like. If somebody asks me to create a resume for them, I go on Pinterest, send them a couple stuff to feel out what they like, and then I redesign. So I use Pinterest basically as my inspiration. A website that you can use to create your resume, however, is Canva. That's Canva. Another one is Nuvo Resume. And the good old Microsoft Word, of course. Microsoft has updated, and with your UE account, you should have access to Microsoft Office 365, which is a powerful tool. So I will encourage you to download it. and play around with it and get familiar because there are a lot of beautiful templates on Microsoft Word these days. These are just three examples of resumes that I have designed personally. One is for myself, one is for somebody who works in the banking sector, and the other one, which is the third one, is for a high school student. Now you will notice that the one for the high school student is rather plain. There is education, objective, of course, the top part is blurred out because that has impersonal information. Then you move on to education. You see the CXCs are actually listed on this one because that's the level that the person is at. School involvement and activities, work experience slash volunteerism. Now, this person doesn't have any work experience. However, they have amassed quite a few voluntary experiences, and that is listed there. And then we move on into special skills slash accomplishment. Really basic and to the point because this is a basic resume for a high school student, and there's not much that you can actually detail on it. Flip over to mine. So at the top, you will have my name. Again, my address blocked out. For me personally, I don't necessarily like using images on resumes. I prefer to use logos, and with Canva, you can go ahead and play around with the app and design a logo of your choosing. I have my profile here, which is what I call it on my resume. For the other one, you will see it as executive summary. So for mine, it says result-oriented individual with 3+ years experience as an astute client service representative, employing strong communicative and problem-solving techniques to deliver premium quality service. Now, with your profile or your executive summary or your objective, what you basically want to do is to sound good on paper. This is the first thing that your employer will read. So when they take it up and they read that 2 line or 3 lines, they should say, wow, tell me more. Then you move on to education, which I have listed. I still have my CXCs and my CAPE on it, as well as my university degree. This is my older resume. As I said, you do not have to include those once you have gotten your degree. Then my professional experience. This is all of the professional experience that I currently have. And as you can see, I've gone ahead to highlight different things that I've achieved. So it is important on your specific resume that you're going to send out for the particular job. It is important that the things that you list under the experience are quantified, right? So they should be able to measure them. So you shouldn't list like under it, you're going to say office secretary. As you note, I don't have like filing or answer phone call because that is the obvious. I have listed things that I've actually done and things that I've actually achieved during my time here at the Guild office. So, for example, I have assisted with the daily operations of the US Students Union and the Office of the Guild of Students while implementing various strategies to improve efficiency. So, I told them exactly what I've done while working at the office. The final thing that, no, I have two other things. I have skills and competencies where I list my soft and hard skills. And then I have leadership and extracurricular activities. I have in this from high school through university and now in my professional life. So all of those things are listed there. And for the final one, this is for someone, as I said, who works currently in the banking sector. Similar to mine, but a bit different. Something different here is area of expertise. So instead of saying skills or competencies, area of expertise is another heading that you can use. Achievements and activities, academic background, volunteerism. So generally the layout remains the same. However, you can play on words to your suiting or to your liking, or include whatever you see fit to sell yourself best to your employer. And that is the end of my presentation. I'll just flip over to YouTube to see if anybody has any questions because I couldn't see the comments all along. So if there are any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the comments. Let me just scroll through quickly to see if anybody asked anything.
very comprehensive, very, easy to understand, and a really, really good presentation that you just gave a while ago. Gabriel, is that my co-host? We have Gabby in the
Yep,
building. Hi.
hi.
What did you think of the presentation?
I think it was really informative and I liked the designs and the slides and everything. So it was very eye-catching and it was very clear. I wasn't lost along the way and I really liked it. Thank you,
Awesome.
Tiffany.
You're welcome. And I use Office 365. Again, you get that free with UE. There are a lot of beautiful templates that you can utilize, whether for Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint. There is no reason for anybody to have a boring anything at all in 2020 when all of the resources are at our
True.
fingertips.
I agree 100%. I really do agree. All right. I didn't see any questions in the chat either, but we see a lot of students saying, yo, this presentation was so good. You helped
Mhm.
them. Thank you so much. And all of these things. So I really hope that everybody that watching this live stream gets a job in the next, couple of months, or
I'm
at
sure
least,
they will.
yeah, definitely. I
Yes.
thank you so much for being here. I thank you so much for that presentation. I learned something. I'm sure Gabriel learned something, and everybody in the chat definitely learned something. Oh, Nadishan has a question about soft skills.
Uh, oh, I picked up a question here. Do you have to list or references? I'm so sorry I never included that. Persons are moving away from listing your references in your resume. So what I generally do is to have a second page. So while your resume consists of 3 pages, don't forget the cover letter. Cover letters are very, very important. I don't like them. However, they're very important. So the first thing is the cover letter. The second thing is the resume. And on a third page, I generally go ahead and list references. Now, why it is not important to include your references is because generally, when you go to the interview, they generally give you a reference sheet to fill out. Right? So that's why it's not necessarily important to list it on the resume because they generally give you a form that you have to fill out with it nonetheless.
Okay. Nadisha had asked about the soft skills, if that you should just state the soft skills that apply specifically for the position that you're
Yeah,
applying.
yeah, man. So for the specific on the max resume, you list all of your soft skills. However, when you're applying for a particular job, then you pull the soft skills that are relevant to the job that you're applying for or that you think will set you apart for that particular job.
And then I think one question, it's not there, but one question I think people have is now, I think online, like, you have LinkedIn and your profile on LinkedIn is your resume, right?
Right.
So when you have a LinkedIn profile, do you put everything or do you just put what you want for certain
Mhm.
employers to see your profile? Or, kind of like, how do you taper that?
All right. So LinkedIn is basically an overview of who you are professionally. So it is some of this and some of that. So
Mm-hmm.
you find the gap between the master resume and the resume specific for the job. So a little
Right.
of this, a little of that, and find things that you're also interested in. For example, I'm currently an office secretary at UA. However, I'm interested in politics. I am currently trying to branch out in
Mhm.
project management. I'm also interested in events management. So you list the different things that you're interested in because they find a way. What you can do on LinkedIn is you can upload your actual resume there. And then
Right.
from that, they pull key areas out of it and highlight key things on your profile and tailor your feed according to that.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think the last question was about personal portfolios, like if you have your own website, if you have, I guess some people would have YouTube channels,
Mhm.
etc. Like their portfolio, should that be included in your resume when you're
Mhm.
applying for a job?
Yeah, man. So you can go ahead and list that. Some persons are also comfortable with listing their social media on their resume, and that's completely fine. Marketers, for example, what a lot of persons in marketing do is they set up their Instagram or their Twitter basically as a portfolio, so they can go ahead and include that in the resume. So if you're sending a soft copy, then you put the links in the resume so that your employer or potential employer can go on and click on it. You can also include your LinkedIn profile on your resume as well. Personally, I don't like to do it because I think that Personal life should be kept separate from professional life. But if it is that both mix or you have a
Okay.
professional presence online, then no problem with linking it on the resume.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Miss Dunkley. We really appreciated everything that you came and said to us. So we're gonna move on with the
Mhm.
program right now. And thank you so much for being here.
You're most welcome.
All right. All right, Gabby
Okay.
G. Hello, hello, hello.
Yes. Hi. So, guys, so far we've had a really good program. Thank you for sticking around. And next up, we have Miss Janelle Morgan. So, Miss Janelle Morgan, she's a part of the
Right.
academic support unit at UWI Mona. And she's going to come to us today and talk to us about some study tips as well as other things. So, I want you guys to stay tuned in and to listen very carefully to Miss
This is a
Morgan. Okay.
all right. Welcome, Miss Janelle Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
Afternoon, afternoon. How are you? Hi, ladies.
We're great.
Hi.
Good.
How are y'all doing today? And hello to the students who are present. Hoping everyone is doing well. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
Thanks for coming.
definitely. Thanks for
Of course. I should ask you before I even jump in. Have y'all started studying just yet?
Of course.
But Gabriel is like, no. You know, I don't believe you by that. I don't believe you one way. Gabriel, have you started studying guys yet? We lose the Gabriel there. That smile says it all. I feel like that what he's saying, we're not so sure. But we're going to push you the same way. Have to do it again, guys. I hope everyone is
Okay.
keeping safe considering everything that's going on. I'm going to say also that we miss you all. As administrators on the campus, we absolutely miss each and every one of you. This is certainly not how we want this the campus experience to be, where we are not able to interact with our students in person. You know, a university is not one where we're not able to see our students and engage with them in person. But considering what's going on right now, absolutely we're trying to see how we can pivot and engage students in different ways. And kudos to the guild representatives for the faculty here who are also seeing how they can engage you all in this setting as well. Absolutely, absolutely. We're encouraging individuals to do this as best as possible so that we can see how we can move things along, right? So I manage the academic support unit in the Office of Student Services and Development. And let me just give that the heads up for those of you who may not know what academic support unit is. It's essentially a unit that offers as much assistance as we can in terms of psychosocial support to students, as well as additional supplementary support when it comes on to tutorial support. And when I say psychosocial support, we're looking at ways to engage you outside of the classroom, right? So it's more like developmental engagement. How is it that we can assist you again outside of the classroom? Because of course the academics are important, but we also want to see how we can give you certain skill sets that you can use when you leave. Tiffany was speaking earlier about resume writing and all that. Absolutely, we want you to be able to function when you are ready to engage in the workspace. So these are kind of the things we want to work on. So when you come and you have a sit down with me, not physically, of course, like in the office here, but some of the things that we would want to touch on would be like things like how you're managing yourself. Again, how is it that you're engaging yourself that now that you're home? Are you managing at all? A lot of students are using words like coping and so on, but are you in fact coping? That's something that we need to look at. And if you aren't coping so well, we need to say, okay, how is it that we can see that you are improving your experience at home or wherever it is you are on hall, that kind of situation. You know, these are things that we want to help you work on from now so that when you're moving forward in life, you know, in the semester, you can say you're developing these skill sets, learning how to function at home with whether it is that you have siblings living with you, other family members, whatever it may be, and how you're functioning with the different distractions that you have around you. Right. Outside of that, of course, we have learning style assessment. A lot of students I find come on campus and they aren't so sure exactly how best it is they've learned, and they themselves have never done a learning style assessment. And we're going to go a bit into that as we go on, because of course the study tips, that's the big thing that we want to be talking about today. And a little later on we're going to do kind of like a study skills check, just to see where you guys are at. It's nothing long, but we want people to be readily aware of where they're at, especially given the fact that a lot of persons aren't so sure possibly how to study at home. You're not able to separate home and school like you've been doing for all these years. So we want to see how we can switch things up, right? The ASU also offers, as I mentioned earlier, supplementary tutorials. And if you Google OSSD, Office of Student Services and Development, you can just type in OSSD UE, and you'll see programs and services. Right at the top, you'll see Academic Support Unit, and you can just see for registration, click here, and you can fill out the Google Doc form, you'll fill out the information, and it has all the options there for the courses, for the faculties rather, and for the course offerings that we have. A lot of them are first year courses because of course we want to give the first years that kind of foundation as they move on into this first year that they have, set them right and with those first year courses, and then leave them to branch out into the second and third year, right? So just giving a little bit of heads up as to what it is that the unit does, right? So we have of course advisory sessions talking about self-management, how to prepare you for exams, how is it that we can assist you overall with your learning styles and strengths? And then, of course, we have the supplementary tutorials. But then we're not going to forget the study tips, which is what we want to talk about, right? So before I jump into that, I touch a little bit on the learning style assessment, right? And it's something that's important because how you study facilitates your own learning, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people aren't so clear on, right? The focus isn't necessarily so much on the fact that you have to study, study, study. Yes, but once you know how best you learn, and studying doesn't necessarily become such a burden, right? So a lot of students, when they come into this office, they're like, okay, Miss Morgan, I'm studying, 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 but I don't feel like I'm processing the information. And when we do the assessment, and I'm going to leave my information with you, I should be able to share my contact, my card with you later on, so you can let me know if you need a session with me. When we do the learning style assessment, they realize that how they have been studying, the traditional ways that they have been studying, which for most individuals is really them sitting down and reading a book, so you're reading for hours on end, or they're, let's go with the traditional English student, reading PowerPoint slides, right? So it's a lot of reading, right? Now, for those of you who know what the major learning styles are, auditory, visual, and tactile, you will know that you want to be able to switch things up as much as possible because the average individual, they want to be able to, they're pretty much well balanced where these major learning styles are concerned. And they can be broken down further into all kind of different things in truth, but we're going with the three main learning styles here. Again, auditory, that's how you hear, right? You learn best by hearing. Visual, you learn best by seeing things, and tactile by being in a more hands-on setting, so you're engaging physically in the material. Now the studying comes into play, where let's say myself, I'm primarily auditory. When I do the assessment, I'm like 80% auditory. And I might have a student coming who is like me, but they're doing their studying, a lot of it, in a visual manner. So it's a lot of reading, a lot of writing, that kind of thing. And they're stressing out themselves, using that term loosely, because you don't necessarily have to be stressed. You can be feeling pressured and so on, but you're not necessarily stressed, right? But they're not necessarily learning the material in the best way because they're engaging in a manner that's not best suited to how best they learn, right? So if you're not so sure about how best you learn, that's something you and I need to talk about. We need to do an assessment, and then we need to push forward and say, okay, we need to switch things up. Because believe it or not, a lot of students come in this ways, and when they realize that they're engaging in their study sessions and their study strategies in all kind of different ways that do not suit how best they learn, then they're like, okay, we're going to now switch things up, having learned how best we learn, right? And remember, it's not a one learning method. Everybody has these different needs. Because even though I'm primarily an auditory learner, I absolutely engage in tactile methods and I absolutely engage in visual methods. Because I'm going to touch on self-management a bit later, you have to switch things up based on how you feel, right? So what I'm going to do now, this is kind of just like a test, right? We just want to see how it is here right now. And the lovely bill reps here are going to drop the link in for me. I want to kind of get a vibe as to where you are. So they're going to be dropping in the chat a link for you all to kind of see what your assessment, what your level of study strategies is at right now. Now, when you're doing this study skills check, I want you to be very honest with yourself, right? And you're going to fill it out. Take a guess as to what you think your learning style is right now. And you're going to be saying, okay, this is where I'm at. You're going to say, be very honest with the different ones, whether or not you do this all the time, half time, and so on. And then we're going to come back to you and we're going to see what your results are like. You're going to share the results with us in the chat. So as you get your results, drop the score in the chat. Don't feel bad, right? You'll see the scores at the end, and as you get the results, we'll come back and we'll have a chat as we move forward. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Maya and Gabrielle. We're going to have a chat with you. We're going to give you the time to do that, and then we'll press forward and we will have a chat after that, folks. See you in a bit.
All right. Hello. Hello.
Hi guys.
Gabby. Hi. So we have been doing very well right now. So whilst you guys listen to our voices and take that quiz and find out how well you learn,
Mhm.
Gabriel, what type of learner are you?
I'm a tactile learner. I do geology, so I like very hands-on things. I work better like that. So sometimes I really have to write or draw out things. So I'm very hands-on.
Okay. For me, I am a audio learner. I'm a kind of mixture of
Hmm.
each. So I'm more like an audio, but I also do very well with visual learning. But when it comes to studying for an exam, I do have to write out everything, even if I've written the notes already. I have to write it out one more time, and that just ferments
Yeah.
everything in my brain. So there are like different mixtures of learning, different
Hmm.
ways or different rankings for each one. So right about now, you don't know say FST love give out free things. We are
Ooh.
giving away free resume makeover. So you guys heard the
Yes.
on resumes. This resume makeover is sponsored by Jardy Art. That's run by Jada Nelson. The
Mhm.
Instagram is jardy.art underscore. That's JARDI dot ART underscore. Jada Nelson, she is a geography major, I believe. So
Mhm.
she's a
Yes.
student, and her business does cover letters, resume. She also does art like paintings, etc. And she's giving away a free makeover. So even if you got all the information on how to do a resume, and you're like, man, we don't have no time. I have this doing, I have that doing. She's gonna do it for you. So the first person
Needs to mess
who
up
can
coming up.
answer this question, and this question is quite easy. I mean, come on, guys. First person who
Mhm.
can answer this question correctly wins. All right. Cool. Ready for the question now. Name
Mhm.
three components of the resume outline from the presentation earlier. Three. All right, ready? Go, 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 go. I want to see who win. Let me look in the chat and see who's going to win.
Yes, guys. Go, 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 go. Come on, guys. You have to be quicker than that, man.
Come on.
Dun, 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 dun.
Come
Come
on.
on, guys. There's three components of a resume outline.
The resume outline. In the meantime,
Mhm.
so earlier she was speaking about different things that you can add to your resume. What are some creative things that you've added to your resume over the years, just from being a student? Because I think one thing that when we leave as a student, we say, "Oh my God, we don't have any work experience." I I don't have. I've been a student for the past 3 years. So I don't have any experience working in the field. The last job that I worked was, I don't know, maybe at a call center, maybe somewhere else. So what are some ways that as a student you can still put job experience on your resume?
Okay, so I know that through certain clubs and societies, internships may be made available. So sometimes people tend to downplay that, like, oh, it's just my club. So any
Mm,
of those initiatives that you join in, you can actually put it on your resume or any other organization that you join. familiarization on campus, that's a very good thing to put on your resume as well. It shows that you're more well-rounded. So I've done some of that over the years.
Right. And then
How
for
about you,
me,
Maya?
like, yeah, for me, like I used to put like skills. So for example, I am a swimmer.
Mm-hmm.
So I will put small. I've been able to use different platforms to make graphics over the years. So I say, all right,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to design graphics, etc., etc. So I just like to add skills. One thing that I guess people wouldn't know about me is that I also make jewelry. So I
Oh,
have, then I can take that and say, okay, I'm creative,
wow.
and that can be described me. That can be used as a descriptive word, on my resume or when I'm applying for a job to say that I'm creative, I'm innovative, etc. So those are
Mm-hmm.
just a couple ways that you can take it and make it. So I see that some people finish the quiz, and I see that the winner is, I
Ooh.
forgive me, I cannot pronounce your name. Naki Nakiba Bal.
Ooh.
You can head on over to Jared Hart and DM her and say that you are the winner of the giveaway. You have won a free resume makeover. All right, I believe that our 5 minutes have passed and some people have finished the quiz. So we're gonna bring Miss Morgan back so we can do
All
more
right.
of this talk and talk more about how you can learn in the online environment.
All right,
Okay,
thanks so
cool.
much, ladies. Thank you. And thanks for those of you who actually did the assessment and saw your results. I know some of you might feel that you intimidated based on your scores, and for those of you who shared the results, we have some there. I salute you for sharing them, right? So here's the thing. There is no wrong way to do this, right? The only thing that we want to do is see where you're at right now so that we can see how we can improve your experience, right? We want to see how we can do better. That's always the goal. We want to see how we can get better each day, right? So that's just to check where you're at right now. Now, if you still have the link open, and you will have noticed that there were a variety of different sections, right? There is no, again, one way to study, folks. You don't have to say all I'm going to be doing is reading and all I'm going to be doing is watching YouTube videos. The idea here is for you to be saying, okay, I need to know what is my best self like. How do I feel when I am studying this way? Do I feel I am absorbing the material best when I learn, when I'm studying or learning in this way? That's where you need to be at. So you will notice if you did the quick check there, that they gave you a variety of ways that you could do it. They mentioned study groups, right? They mentioned the fact that you would want to be organizing your material. Believe it or not, that is a way to study, because just sifting through your material, your course material, is helping you to see what it is that you will have covered and helping you to look at what it is that you may need to recover in the future, right? Just the fact that you are going to be engaging in a study group, which is a brilliant idea given that we are in this virtual setting. But a lot of you might be doing the movie watching with friends and that kind of thing, using Netflix, whatever it may be you're doing. You want to be able to say, okay, we're going to be engaging in an online study group. And folks, for those of you who might feel it, that you don't want to be doing the talking thing, again, it doesn't have to be one where you are talking with each other. You can just turn on the camera so you feel like you're in class or you feel like you're at the library, those of you who actually went to the library, right? So you're with your peers and the cameras are on for those of you who are again brave enough, because a lot of it in the classroom and in the tutorials and nobody not turning on the cameras alone, while everybody playing shy, right? But you do that and you're seeing other persons around you studying, so you're essentially creating that study space for yourself, where quite a few of you do not have that at home, right? You also want to be pivoting how you are approaching again your studies. So let's go with those of you who are auditory learners like myself. So you're in your lectures and so on. That might not necessarily be the only way you want to do it. Yes, that's an audio visual setting because you're hearing as well as seeing. But when you leave the classroom space, right? And obviously I'm talking about physical space here. What measures are you taking outside of the classroom space that are auditory measures? So you want to be saying, okay, we're going to be engaging in playing a YouTube video. You want to be listening to the lecture again. The study groups work wonderfully for you because you can be having conversations with your peers, or maybe even talking about material with your friends and family, who, if you have that opportunity to do so, so that you're hearing the information, you're hearing the course content being discussed with other people, and further cementing the information through your hearing. That's just a few examples of how auditory learners can study, right? Remember again, you don't have to do that alone. You want to mix things up. So an auditory learner could also incorporate some visual methods, right? I'll use myself as an example again. I love color. So when I'm having to use my textbooks or so on, you don't necessarily have textbooks here, but you can be highlighting using the laptop. Some of you may have the opportunity to print paper. Even if you don't have the paper, you might have your textbooks at home, whatever it is that you're printing. If you have the printed paper, you use highlighter of the different colors. If you're going to have the PDF copies, a lot of you have the different apps or so on where you can highlight your color, whatever it is on the apps on your laptops or so on. If you don't have those, you want to be using the pens or so on, and you're writing in your own books at home, because there is no one way again to engage in visual study strategies, right? So if you're going to have to be watching on, let's say you borrowed a laptop or whatever it is that you may have done, right? And you need to write something that's you studying visually. You're learning very quickly because, of course, it's it's a borrowed equipment. So you're going to write down the material. If you're fortunate enough to have different color material, you want to see how quickly you can do that, and you might say you're going to write in red for information that you think is most important, and then you're going to go in green for something that you think is more fun, that kind of thing, and you're using blue for you're essentially color coding as you're going along. That's a visual technique, right? Now, for my tactile learners, and I think Gabriella and Maya were discussing it earlier, how is it that you're going to engage in a tactile method? And this is particularly challenging for the SciTech and students and tactile learners overall, because you're not on campus and you're not able to be in labs, you're not able to go on the road, the field trips or so on. So you want to be able to say, okay, I'm at home. How is it that I'm going to switch things up? You now have to use your physical space. And this might be a little tricky because, of course, everyone is having all kinds of different challenges based on where it is you are and what it is you have at home. But you see what you can do with the different material that you have around you, right? So what I always say to persons, if you have paper, that's the best thing you can use, right? So you might want to, again, you're engaging in visual and tactile methods by writing things down, and then you probably want to put them up around you, right? You probably, those of you who want to go outside, I don't know if the geography or geology people might do this, but I had a student who came in and she said, Miss, I'm using the stones in my yard and I'm just doing all kind of different things outside. If you have that opportunity to do that, you might want to use the leaves on the trees outside. I don't know what the bio and the chemistry people might necessarily do, but there are ways for you to use the tools that you have around you. It's just for you to be creative. Use your mind and say, all right, I literally cannot go on campus physically, I cannot be in a lab, but what do I have at my disposal right now? With the students who are my peers, and how can we engage each other and say, okay, we're going to switch things up. Today we're going to try an auditory method. Today we're going to try an auditory and visual method. And then maybe next week, all of us are going to come together and we're going to switch things up, and each of us is going to go outside and we're going to find one thing that we think can be used to incorporate in our learning based on what it is we find outside, based on what it is that we find in our house. That is you studying in a different way by using what you have around you as well as what you have within you. And that is how you engage in your own learning, and you don't just become a student who is sitting down and receiving information, but you are actually engaged in your own learning and you are involved. So when you do that, you end up joining your lectures and not just joining and sitting down. You join the tutors and you don't just sit down and just wait for the information. When you do that and you have employed all of these study strategies, you say to yourself, okay, I'm in the tutorial now, I'm not just waiting. I have questions, I have comments, I have something to share. The classmates and I would like to say that we think this based on our research, and we sat down and we read this and we had a conversation, and we think that this might need to switch things up a bit based on what you said, and you then have something to say to the tutor, something to the lecturer, and it becomes a conversation that you're having with you, the lecturer, the tutor, and your peers, and the room changes. The atmosphere changes because you would have engaged in a complete learning experience, and you are no longer just a recipient of information, but somebody who is sharing information with your peers and with your lecturers and tutors. And that is what we want. Again, studying is not done in one way because it facilitates your own learning. It is something that is happening right through every day, all day. You're learning what to do as well as what not to do, folks, as well as what not to do. So if you realized that last semester how you were doing things was working for you, switch things up. You are not stagnant by any means. If you feel that you need some advice as to possibly how to do that, by all means, reach out to me. They should be sharing my contact information there. My number 876-371-2047, and we can have a chat and see how we can again switch things up for you. If you're not so sure how to do it, we can have a talk again and we say how what approaches can we take so that we can get it in the best possible space. All right, there's nothing that is impossible. I keep telling my students this: the goal here is not to achieve perfection, and as it is well known, perfection for me is just constantly seeking to improve yourself. So the goal here is to not sit down and be doing the same thing and achieving the same results, but to say, how is it that I can keep improving myself, improving my study strategy so that I can be getting the best possible grades that I can get come this semester, come next year. Mid semesters are coming up in a couple of weeks, folks. Don't wait too long. Engage those study strategies. Contact me if you need any help. I'm willing to do that at any point in time. All the best for the rest of the semester. Thanks much. Take care.
Great. Thank you so much. That was such a uh, a very good presentation. I think a lot of students
Indeed.
definitely needed to hear that, especially
Mhm.
before exam started, so that they can prepare themselves mentally, prepare their notes, prepare their environment, and everything. So I thank you so much for that presentation, Miss
Of
Morgan.
course, of course. Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me. Were there any questions I didn't ask that?
Right. So we're gonna see if there are any questions. But in the meantime, I have a question. One thing about online school right now that
Mhm.
is very different is that a lot of SciTech students don't have labs anymore or
Mhm.
in-person labs. So
True.
those students who would have learned from being in the lab environment, they're kind of missing out, except for chemistry, they're kind of missing out and don't know, how to relate their studies to what they're actually supposed to do when they get a job or when they're supposed to be in the field. So, what advice would you give a student right now who is feeling as though they're not learning as well as they can in the online environment due to them not having the face-to-face lab?
Okay, so this is now where I say to you that you want to engage, to think of it as you engaging in the research aspect of your learning, right? Any chemist, any scientist will say to you that in order for you to engage in that level of the practical part of the work, research is important. That's why for the first year, as much as first years and so on have labs as well, a lot of your work involves research, involves you reading. The first year as well has a lot of foundation courses because we want to have you in that space where you're getting the foundation, literally, that's why we call them foundation courses, right? For you to get the background. So, as much as students don't like it, and this is a Caribbean mindset that I want us to change, this is the opportunity for you now to say, I get to do some research, I get to compare knowledge based on what other persons would have done in New Zealand, Australia, Sweden, whatever it is, and you yourself, once you have engaged in that learning, you can now compare information. Again, remember what I said earlier. Once you have engaged in that kind of learning and you have received all of that, and it has cemented within yourself, you can now compare within yourself and say, all right, Maya, you read this from Mr. What's his name in Sweden, and your lecturer here is saying X, and you put the two of them together and you're comparing it with data from wherever. What do you think about it? So that's you learning in a different way as opposed to actually feeling the information in your hands tactically, right? And then hopefully, once all of this has ended, please God, and you're able to get into the physical space, you can say, based again on what you have learned from your own research, you come and you're feeling it in your hands, you're seeing it based on your results and all of that, and you know for sure that the evidence, yeah, is being presented in front of you. So it's all about the pivoting. Everybody has to be switching things up now. Use the opportunity to engage in your own learning and say, all right, let me do some research. It might not seem fun, but once you are learning, it should be fun. It doesn't sound fun, but you are further gaining your own knowledge that you will be using in your professional careers. Well, I'm hoping these are things that you want to be doing professionally. I would hope that you're not even not inside it and you're not doing it just because. But if this is a degree that you intend to use, this is the opportunity for you now to be able to say, I am here. I can possibly start a paper. I can write a couple of articles. It's not up to just doctors or persons with how many degrees. You can probably jot a couple of, or write an article down, start a blog, because of the amount of reading you have done and the way you have engaged yourself.
Right. I agree. I agree. Gabrielle, what do you think?
Can you repeat that, please? I
No,
was
I
having
was saying, do you have any questions either?
Love
a
that
bit
should
of
be
issues on my
learn now,
phone.
keep it. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. You cannot unlearn anything. You can't, believe
Question.
it. Mhm.
Okay, my question for Miss Morgan would be, okay, going forward, a lot of us we're at home now and we're really trying our best to keep motivated while we're learning. So do you have any quick tips? I know Tiffany spoke earlier, but just in wrapping up, do you have anything you want to reiterate or add to help us keep going while we're learning?
Help you keep going. So for me, in order to keep yourself motivated, you need to be filling your cup in different ways, right?
Okay.
I always I'm saying to students again, when you come into my space, we're not just going to be talking about your academics. I'm not going to pretend that you're a student and that's it. If you're at
Mhm.
home and only doing schoolwork and you are feeling completely drained because you're not filling your cup in different ways, then you are
Mhm.
going to be burnt out. So what else is making you happy? What, or rather not making, because you're probably not doing it. What
Yeah.
else makes you happy? Right? What else brings joy to your life? Now, I'm hoping he's not watching Netflix for hours on end. I'm hoping he's not idling on social media for hours on end. Right? But hey, if that's your thing, by all means, go on ahead. Right? But you want to be able to sit down and say, what feeds me mentally, emotionally, spiritually, socially as well, right? And you want to be able to say at the end of the week, you touched on something that you have been working towards and you have achieved
Did she freeze?
as
I think she's
possible.
reloading. I'll give you a
Okay,
second.
we're
Miss
back here. I don't know what
Morgan.
happened just now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where did we lose me? All right. So I'm just
Yeah,
trying to say,
please.
for me, at the end of each
Mhm.
week, you just want to be able to say, I think that was you with internet just now. We had the struggles to folks. My apologies. Right? So at the end of each week or even each day, you want to find the time to say that you're giving a little time to yourself. Right?
Mhm.
And personally for me, I say at the end of each week, you want to I want to be able to say I've touched on the things that matter most to me. Your personal relationships, if you have a significant other, you want to try and make time for that person. If you're close with your family members, you want to do that as well. Because these things feed you and hopefully they are motivating you as well. There are support systems that you should have in place. Because it's not all the time you're able to motivate yourself. Intrinsic motivation is fabulous, yes. But sometimes we have down days, and a lot of persons are having that in this COVID climate here. So you want to be able to
Mhm.
find the support systems outside of yourself, right? Spiritually, for some people, persons it might be God or whoever it is for you, right? You want to be able to say you have good friends. You have your Gil reps here who they're student leaders and they're also having to balance leadership as well as their academics. So they're having that kind of struggle as well. You understand your parents who a lot of your parents who understand that the struggles with school load. So you might want to let them know to share that with them. You see your faces, I see you. I said to students all the time. Why don't you say to your parents, this is what my school load is like? Your parents they weren't living the kind of lives you're living now. It's very possible.
Good
So you
point.
want to just be real with them, and then hopefully, I would hope for you that they'll be able to see what your reality is, and therefore offer some more support. At least that would be my hope for you, right? So look at what you need as opposed to what you're doing, and then say, okay, I'm going to feed myself in other ways. And then maybe you find that you're cutting back on the Netflix a little bit. Probably you going outside a bit more, getting some sun, probably going for a walk once you're being
Yes.
safe, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that you're feeding yourself in other ways. It don't have to be food, folks. When I say I'm using this term very loosely here, right? right? But you're feeding yourself again in the other ways that you are filling up your cup and therefore not just pouring into school on E. That's important.
Definitely, definitely.
All
Thank you
right.
so
Thank you
much for
so
that
much for
advice.
that.
That
Absolutely,
was
no
good.
problem at all.
Take care. All right, so we're gonna wrap up now, guys. Thank you so much for being here for an hour and 14
Mhm.
minutes of just very very good information. I just hope that some students will be able to even come back to this at a later date and say, okay, this is how I study. The things will still be here, the
Mhm.
resources will still be here, so you'll be able to go and do what you need to do. What we're going to do is we're going to make a Google Drive. We're going to put Miss Morgan's card in there. We'll put the link to the survey in there. I will also put a presentation on how to do writing
Mhm.
by our own Miss Gabrielle Gill in there. So you'll be able to access those resources and you'll be able to use them to help you with your academic writing and to help you to study and to code. Um, yeah, so right now we're going to go into any announcements and updates, and then we're gonna wrap up and close out. Thank you so much, Miss Morgan, for being
No
here.
problem. Thanks for having me. All the best, guys. Take care.
Thank
You take care as well.
you. Enjoy your evening.
Okay. Whew.
All right, Maya. It's
Yeah,
time.
that was such a good. That was such a good. I feel like they even drape me up at some points. I'm like, wow. When she said the thing about Netflix, I'm watching Fresh Prince back to back to back every day. But yeah, where everybody's on Among Us for 5 hours of the day playing with your friends. But right now, my EAC whisper in my ears that we have some events coming up.
Yeah.
So on the 15th, we have the mentorship program launch. I want to see
Mhm.
our the mentees come out and stunting. You come, we're going to do some bonding with your mentees. We're going to teach you some skills. It's going to be a fun time. Also, on the 16th, we have from my committee, Spread Love. So, what that is an initiative that we've come out with underneath the mental health and health disorders initiative. And what that's going to be is you're going to get the opportunity to share inspirations, to share quotes, to share anything with your fellow SciTech students. And we have a little surprise coming out, so look out for that. And then on the 30th, I believe we have Pink Week. Gabby, correct me if I'm wrong. Pink
Mhm.
Week, or
Yeah, the 26th to the
it's
30th.
right. So it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Everybody knows, get your pink, get your pins, get anything that you need.
Mhm.
And we're just going to celebrate all of the persons right now, the survivors, the people who are still going through it, etc. All of the women and some men who have been let me not even say victims, but who have had breast cancer. So we're gonna celebrate and bring awareness about that from the 20th to the 30th.
Mhm.
I don't think there's any more announcements, but let me know if there's any more announcements, Gab. No? Okay, no. All right. Gabby's frozen right now, so I'm gonna close out. I'm just gonna say thank you to everybody who came. Thank you to our tech support. Thank you to the beautiful PCC team that made the graphics for this. Thank you to the PR team who have pushed all of the graphics for this. Thank you to my team. Thank you to my project manager, Tyreek, who was part of the planning for this. Thank you to the secretariat. Thank you to the VPPSI team. And thank you
Yeah.
most of all to the students. While you're here, make sure you subscribe, make sure you go and you follow our social media because this is the Faculty of Greatness.
Mhm.
I love that this was your first time here and I love that you loved it. This is the Faculty of Greatness, guys, and it is going to be a great year. Thank you so much. Later,
Yes.
guys. Go study now.